Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We are Jack's favorite podcast. This is Reservations. I am Jeremy Blair.
And I'm Way to go. Especially after I literally just told you I was gonna do a bit.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot it.
Yeah, was it gonna be like
no,
Jack? Okay.
It wasn't gonna be that. It was gonna be something. I was really proud of it. I was like, dude, Jeremy's gonna be so proud of me.
Yeah.
And
be the first time ever. That'd be ever.
I know.
Yeah.
You know. It's not like no one else tells me that. Damn it. Son of a bitch. If I could, it'll hit me as I'm editing the episode. I'll be like, oh, fuck.
Can I tell you something? So this is completely off topic. We're going to get into Fight Club in a minute. But yesterday, I had gotten an email at work and I didn't like it because it was another department giving me something that they should have checked to send to a different one because I don't do this, right? And I said out loud, God, do your job, Josh, which is, I told you from Warrior, which is what I say constantly. And so I'm like, God, do your job, Josh.
Did someone say anything?
No, I'm alone in my office.
Alone with just your thoughts?
Yeah, just my thoughts. Well, actually, okay. So, shout out to this new podcast I found. This is over the weekend. Haley and I were driving back from Lubbock. I was there to visit my dad and to visit Zach and his wife Kinsley because their little daughter Lila turned 1. So anyway, but we were driving back and she was sleepy.
Okay.
And so you guys were talking about the Dyatlov Pass thing, right?
Haley brought that up.
Yeah.
I was just kind of like, what?
Right, and I didn't know what it was. And so I told her, before you go to sleep, find it for me. Find me a podcast for it. And so she pulled up, it's called Supernatural, not to be confused with, damn it, Sammy, Supernatural. Sammy! Not to be confused with that. It's just called it's from Parcast, which is a Spotify thing.
Okay.
But they're on Apple Podcasts, at least Supernatural is. And it's amazing. I'm obsessed. So I haven't been listening to my music in my office. I've been listening to this podcast.
So, are they kind of...
For like a week.
I don't want to say like us, but like I'm assuming each episode is like a different...
Oh, no, they're way better than us. So...
Well, no, what I'm saying is it's not like a series kind of thing.
It's a different story every week.
Okay.
Some of them are ghost related. Some of them are alien related, which I believe there are aliens, but I don't believe they're as prevalent on Earth as people think they are.
Have you not seen the man who created Facebook? Dude, he comes from some kind of lizard people.
Which is not an alien. It's a lizard person. It's completely different.
It doesn't mean he's not from Alien.
And so I don't believe that. But anyway, I still listen to those anyway. And then there are like exorcism stories, but they also have like conspiracy and mythical stories.
Okay.
And like unexplained things like the Dyatlov Pass incident. So that was really, really cool. So shout out to Parcast and shout out to Supernatural because that was was dope.
We'll put a link in the description of the probably the YouTube video, because if we put links in the podcast description, you can't click them.
That's weird. And also, I ran into my buddy Will this week, and he is starting his own business with coffee. And
Will Wheaton?
Yeah, Will. My buddy Will Stewart. He back in town. We actually went to high school with him for a while. Because he had moved anyway down there. But he's starting his own little coffee business, and he's going to give us some information to give a shout out. But this leads me to this: if you guys are starting something, trying to get a business off the ground, we don't have very many listeners, but let us know and we'll talk about it. So, no payment required.
30 seconds. Your business name here.
I like supporting like our friends and stuff.
That's why Ashley and I try to support local businesses as much as we can.
So if you guys are starting something or wanting to give something off the ground, get the word out. We have at least two listeners. At least 2. One of them's me, and just to make sure it sounds okay and that I don't sound like an idiot. And let us know. We'll talk about it on the podcast. So
for sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my stuff.
Yeah, and I don't have anything to talk about.
Okay, great. So Fight Club.
Fight Club.
Okay, so I know you didn't want to say it on mic, but I'm about to make you.
I should have waited till we were done.
You have to tell me. So you have to tell the audience what you just told me.
As I mentioned in our last week episode, Palm Springs, I said that I hadn't seen Fight Club in a while, which was a lie, because I didn't want Jeremy judging me that I actually haven't seen Fight Club. Wow. Because I have seen clips, I've seen scenes in passing, like I know when it came out on, I believe, DVD for the first time. Mm-hmm. I know my mom rented it. I just happened in passing to see a couple of things, but I've never actually sat and watched it. I've watched breakdowns of it, but never actually, And I know the main, the main things that everyone knows, the rules of Fight Club.
Yeah.
That Tyler Durden isn't real. Spoilers.
Oh my God.
But yes, today I watched it on my lunch break, and
it's a really long lunch break. I'm just kidding. I'm just giving you a hard time.
I'll tell you more about that off mic.
Okay, great.
Anyway, but yeah, I loved it. I mean, of course I did, because as we did with Zodiac, I love David Fincher. Yeah. I think he is an amazing director, and especially this being only his second, third?
I would say third or fourth, because he had...
Because I know he did that...
People forget about Alien 3.
Which was not his fault,
Not
everyone.
his fault. Not his fault.
He tried his hardest. Because I knew that was his directorial debut.
Yeah,
and it wasn't his fault.
And there was 7, and then... Yeah, and then I think it was Fight Club. I think that might be the order.
I mean, for a third outing as a director, he knocked it out of the park. As he always does. Or
maybe it goes 7 and then... it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. What does matter is this movie's awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I loved it. As we've sort of talked about on Zodiac, Fincher's use of CGI is insane especially in this movie.
Yeah, this one has a very unique use of CGI and some really cool tricks that, obviously in 2021 it still looks like CGI, but
it looks great though.
Pulling the camera out of the trash can.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
It's a cool shot, and it's all CGI. And of course the beginning stuff for the title cards.
His apartment exploding.
Yep.
Because I just recently learned about that one, that whole sequence with CGI wasn't practical.
And even just the moving around the apartment and it, having the catalog overlays and stuff, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's...
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know how you watched it. You watched it on...
I watched it on my computer.
Okay. So, the Blu-ray does a very interesting thing, and I don't know if you've even heard of this, but when the Blu-ray starts, it pulls up the menu for Never Been Kissed first, the Drew Barrymore movie.
Really?
Yeah, and then it glitches, and then it goes to Fight Club.
That's fucking funny.
And then it's the menu for Fight Club.
Well, and we should give the audience a little hint, because I'm sure we'll get into it. This movie is very anti-consumerism.
It is. It's anti-consumerism, but
in and of itself, a capitalist product.
I am wearing a Fight Club shirt right now. And I did that on purpose because the movie is, and the story is so anti-capitalist and consumerist, I'm wearing a product that has Fight Club on it. And so, which is, it's part of the joke, right?
Right.
Because this whole movie is not to be taken seriously.
No.
And so let's go ahead and preface everything by... Don't be like Tyler. Don't be like Tyler.
God,
Durden.
I can't wait to see the levels on that.
I think, I wrote it at the very end of my notes, but there were a lot of guys out there wanting to emulate Tyler Durden, and that's the complete opposite of what the story is trying to get through your head. Is you don't want to be like Tyler Durden.
Yeah, and no. Yeah, you don't want to pretty much say fuck the world.
Yeah, it's. Anyway, so let's go ahead and jump into it.
I was just about to say, Jeremy, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Wow. So, Fight Club. Let's go ahead and just talk about the overall story in the film first, and then we can talk about, because I did a lot of review research on this one.
Before we go on, because I actually like hearing how Haley reacts. Did she watch the movie with you?
No, she did not.
Oh, okay.
No. She did not watch the movie with me. Although I don't think she would hate this one. It's...
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I just love hearing about what she has to say about it. Yeah. Anyway, go on.
So this movie and this story is very unique in which you can take the twist out of the movie and it's still a really compelling story.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think it's because the author, Chuck...
Future Rain, put that in post.
Yep, put that in post. Fix that. Anyway, so the author didn't realize he could make them one person until 2/3 of the way through writing the book.
Really?
And so, in doing so, it adds an extra layer to the story, but he was already writing a compelling story to begin with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if they were two separate people, it's still a very compelling story, which is, I think, what makes Fight Club so great and so rewatchable. And it's not like watching, no offense, an M. Night Shyamalan movie where the whole thing
is one big twist.
Is one big twist, right? It's sort of being held together by the twist, and once you know it, you know it. I think the only exceptions would be The Sixth Sense has lots to offer, and of course Unbreakable is amazing. And my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movie.
Not Split though?
No.
But the twist in Split is that it's connected to Unbreakable. That was the twist.
I don't care.
Okay, well, if you want a reference of how M. Night focuses solely on his twists, reference Glass. Glass should have been the best of this trilogy that he had created, starting with Unbreakable, then Split, and Glass just...
Yeah, I agree.
Anyway.
So I mean, that's where this story starts being interesting, is that it's not being held together by a twist, right?
Yeah.
The twist is sort of like
But,
right.
But I will add this, though. If you go into the movie like how I did, even though you know the twist, you can actually pick up clues.
Yes.
That something is off about, they forgot to give him a name. So let's just call him Edward Norton.
There is the narrator is what he's called and everything. So it was called the narrator. But it's sort of interesting you bring that up, because I didn't really see anything about that writing process for him. But the author, what he must have done, because I can't pronounce his last name. I'm not calling him Chuck. I don't know him personally. But
just call him Chuck.
I'm not going to. So
just call him C-Man.
You know what? CP. So CP, when he was writing and realized he can make them one person, I wonder if he went back, because there are still clues in the book too. I was listening to the book, and
I was going to ask you
clues.
if you were able to finish the book before we did this.
No, but there are clues in there still, right?
That show you that they're the same person.
Yeah, that you can go back and be like, same person, right? I wonder if he had to go back and add those things in later. I mean, just to leave little breadcrumbs to say they're the same person, or if it was just a complete coincidence, and then he's just like, "Hey, that kind of lines up." Which I doubt.
I say it's a 50-50 shot, because most authors. I mean, I'm not going to speak for most authors, but I'm sure most authors, like when they get done with a certain section of the book, they're like, "All right, I'm moving on." But I also would believe that he'd be like, "Oh, now I can make them one person. Okay, right. I gotta give back. Yeah. I gotta give people clues."
Yeah, which I mean. Whatever. But
anyway, yeah. I just wanted to add that, because I do agree that take the twist out that Tyler Durden and the narrator are the same person. The movie is still great. The performances are fantastic. So yeah.
And most of the dialogue and narration is taken from the book verbatim. There's a lot that is in there that is verbatim.
Because David Fincher's the man.
Yeah, he even begins the same way, with the gun in his mouth and Tyler, about to set the bombs off, right? And even the explanation of, sort of just jumping right in, which seems sort of disorienting when you watch the film, because you're like, whoa, what is happening, right?
And now everyone copies that.
Yeah, because that's how the book starts, right? Which great CGI in that as well.
I was trying to figure out where it was starting from, and then when it comes out and you see like the bead of sweat going down his forehead, I was like, "Oh, we were inside of him."
Yeah, we were in his head, right?
Which should have been a clue that something's off. I
think my favorite clue is the payphone. The payphone is my favorite clue, because when it rings, you can see the payphone next to it that says no incoming phone calls.
shit, I missed that.
And so that's one of my favorite clues is that it's not ringing, right? And he's just picking it up. And the phone number that Tyler gives him is his phone number.
Oh.
Yeah, on the card. It's his home phone number, which you see earlier.
Very briefly.
That is his phone. So those little subtle things that if you're not like really glued to the screen and really paying attention, you're not going to get, right?
Right.
Of course, the verbal clues from the narrator. Sometimes Tyler speaks for me. I know this because Tyler knows this. You know, those sort of things. I really like. Anyway, so some of my favorite narration of all time is this.
And I was gonna say, like, this is probably one of your favorite things, as we've talked about. You love direct-to-camera narration.
I do, and I just like, you know, I like the rhythm and I like the dialogue, so I like all of it, right?
Yeah.
It's sort of fast and it's, you know, I don't know. I really like the cadence of the rhythm and whatever.
Especially during the whole projectionist sequence. Yeah, love that.
Yeah. And of course, we later find out these are his jobs.
Yeah.
Which is why you know so much about him. So in the book, the narrator and Tyler meet on a nude beach while he's on vacation.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
And it sort of plays with the homoeroticism of the film as well, or of the story.
Okay.
As well, I think. There's a lot to dive in there later.
Okay.
So I guess we could truly begin, because we've been skating around it, I guess. Let's talk about Edward Norton.
Okay.
Edward Norton is fresh off of American History
X. I was
X.
just about to say American History X.
Had to lose all that muscle because my man was jacked.
Was shredded.
Yeah.
Playing that Nazi.
You can't be shredded if you're the narrator. That's not how it works. You gotta be an everyman, right?
Yeah. You need to be relatable.
Yeah, and they had to cover all of the swastika tattoos. That's not true. They're not really.
Could you imagine if he had gone that deep?
I got him for real.
They'd be like, Ed, no, you don't have to do this. No, it's okay.
Future episode, by the way.
American History X?
Not this season, of course. Not for me, anyway.
Another movie I've never seen.
Oh, it's really good.
I am aware. Everyone tells me it's very good.
It's very good. Okay, so I like that we set up that he deals with his insomnia, which essentially comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
They don't explain how it came about or why he has it, but
he just can't sleep.
And he goes to these the grief and the counseling groups.
Yeah, it's almost like he needs to feel
the support groups
in order to go to sleep.
Yeah, he needs to cry to go to sleep. Yeah. Right? And what I love that David Fincher does is the flashes of Tyler. In the first few minutes of the film, in those scenes. I can't get enough of that.
Yeah, implying that
he's creeping in.
Yes, that the more... It's almost like the more Ed has a hard time going to these groups, the more Tyler's going to not really gain control, but he's going to become fully present. And
what really sets him off is Marla.
Helena Bonham Carter, who I've never seen, I wouldn't say in a role like this, because she's played weird characters like Marla before, but I don't know, this weird characters in a Tim Burton film versus this it was completely different.
Really different, yeah.
You know? Which I love. I think Helena Bonham Carter is a very underrated actress. Yeah. I think people only see her as, you know, the Tim Burton girl.
Yeah, Ms. Tim Burton.
Former Ms. Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And I would say everyone needs to watch this movie now. And you can really see...
everybody has. Right?
Everyone should, yeah. Yeah, anyway. Yes. Yeah, and then Marla throws everything out of whack.
Yeah, and of course that's sort of implied that Marla is the reason he snaps, essentially.
The reason why Tyler becomes fully present.
Yeah.
Which I I was laughing so hard how offended he was that she's going to all of these meetings and she's not even sick. And I'm like, dude, you're not even sick.
And I think that's what, so I saw, I was reading this review, and they called it a Molasses black comedy. That's how dark it is, right? And I love that. Okay, this is a tangent, but I love that Molasses can also be used for dark because they use it for slow. Imagine a really slow film that's also just so dark in tone. That's double the Molasses right there, because it's slow like Molasses, but it's also dark like Molasses. Anyway, I like that.
And
Molasses,
I don't like that you whispered that.
Molasses is so versatile in terms of analogy, and so I really like that. So kudos to whoever wrote that review. I probably have your name written down on my paper, so we'll get to you later. But anyway, so this movie is hilarious.
It truly
in
is.
a very dark way.
It shouldn't be as funny as it is, but it is.
Well, here's the deal. It is supposed to be that funny, and that's sort of the whole thing.
Right.
It's a satire on this sort of anarchist sort of way of thinking. It's also a satire on what they hate, right? Which is consumerism, capitalism, masculinity, all that stuff.
Yeah, because by one of the big things, and for the YouTube video, I'll have like a little icon right now for a video that I've talked about this channel on the podcast a lot. Aliens Guy, they did a kind of a breakdown of this, and they talk about how the materialism in the film is a way for them to buy their identities instead of forming one on their own.
Yeah,
it's as Edward Norton says, if I saw a yin yang table, I just gotta have it
because it
would look good.
Well, not only that, but he goes, what was it? What coffee table reflects my personality, or something like that. You know what I mean? It's that sort of like, I want my unique personality to be portrayed through all of these intellectual properties.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's individuality through consumerism, which is counterintuitive. But that's their point. Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And man, and David Fincher does such a great job showing that, especially with, as you're talking about, as we're going through his apartment and everything is popping up, but with the prices.
Yeah, of course.
Now, I have been to IKEA, and I am very impressed that Edward Norton knew how to pronounce all that stuff. Because me and Ashley were like, I don't know. Huh?
Yeah, I know.
A buddy of mine, Noe.
Those Swedes. Oh, they get it.
A buddy of mine, Noe, really likes a Swedish metal band called In Flames, and he was texting me, and he was like, yeah, man, I went to IKEA. I was like, oh, how'd you like it? And he was like, it was really hard to pronounce things. All the Swedish things I've learned is from In Flames. I'm like, yeah, that's two different things, my man.
It's not a Rosetta Stone, man. That's not going to give you the phonics you need. Anyway,
yeah. But I'm sure probably because Edward Norton, they probably taught him how to say that.
Maybe.
But anyway, but yeah, and I love that his entire apartment is also fully furnished by IKEA.
Yeah.
Which, not really a tangent, but speaking of IKEA, my mom and Scott's first apartment in Austin was also decked out by IKEA. Because there's only one IKEA in Texas, and it's in Austin.
Yeah, I've been to IKEA once, and it was that one.
Yeah, dude. It's cool, though.
Yeah. Sure.
It's
disorienting. I don't like it.
The meal that Ashley and I had there, because they have a full-fledged restaurant.
The meatballs.
Yeah, we got the Swedish meatballs. Nice. And the lingonberry sauce,
of course,
was dope. Anyway, but yeah, so his identity is built out from his possessions, rather than, I don't want to say living life, but essentially gaining his personality through experiences.
Yeah, the whole point, I think, of what Tyler's mission truly is to shut down everything. That way people can be individuals, right?
Right.
start everyone off at the same level, right? That way we can truly see how people are, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's a little far, but we'll get into that sort of crazy trajectory that the film takes later. But
yeah, because the film goes off on that dirt road very quickly.
It does, yeah.
Because it's slow burn and it's just like.
Let's talk about Marla for a little bit more. Because Marla, as a character, is very interesting because, again, she's sort of a love interest, right? But also, what we believe is our main character, the narrator, it drives him insane, right?
Yeah, so
and
she's
really does hate her.
She's almost an antagonist at the same time.
Yeah, she's both, right? Yeah. Unknowingly for the same person.
Yeah.
Well, she knows it's the same person.
He just thinks that, which I have so many questions about, but we'll get there.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah. To him, to Edward Norton, she's an antagonist.
Yeah, and Marla is sort of like, she is a very unique individual. She is her own person, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in the context of the film, and what the characters are trying to achieve, she's pretty much the end result. That's what they want people to be themselves, right?
Right.
I love that she just does whatever she wants.
Yeah.
One of my favorite bits she does is takes the clothes out of the laundry and then goes and sells them at that secondhand store.
Yeah.
Right? I love it. Just stopping in the middle of traffic and...
Yeah, because I think it's Edward Norton says because she knows she'll die sometime, so she lives like she's about to.
Yeah.
And so just walks into traffic and doesn't care,
Right, stealing those meals off the cart, stuff like that.
Yeah.
That I love. So she kicks us off by stopping his
coming into his testicular cancer
support group, right? Meatloaf. Yeah. Great performance by Meatloaf.
Yes. Again, since I haven't seen the movie, I didn't realize he was in it, and I recognized him immediately. I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is Meatloaf right there. And R.I.P. Bob.
R.I.P. Bob.
But yeah, dude.
His name was Robert Paulson. Anyway.
Yeah, Robert Paulson.
Robert Paulson.
Yeah. I wonder if when David Fincher asked Meatloaf if he wanted to be in the movie, if Meatloaf was like, is there any singing? Because if anyone doesn't know, when he did Rocky Horror, everyone wanted him to be in their movie, but they wanted him to sing. And he's like, yeah, even though I am a rock star, I would rather have my acting speak for itself. And they're like, yeah, but we want you to sing though, man. And he's like,
but not Fincher.
Well, then I'm not doing that. I bet Fincher was like, no, we're just going to put you in a chest fat suit.
He was the only one who could break, the third or fourth rule, which is no shirts, because they couldn't take his shirt off because it was a fat suit underneath. Yeah. So he was the only one that got to wear a shirt for the fight scenes.
Yeah.
Okay. So once Marla gets in the picture, we get to see what Edward Norton does for a living. I just did it. The narrator. We get to see what the narrator does for a living, which is fascinating to me. Yeah,
he assesses car crashes for, we don't know what car company he works for.
A major one.
I'm going to say it's Mitsubishi because on his... Well, no. Here's my reason. Because on his card that he gives to Marla, I saw like a red logo.
Okay.
And Mitsubishi is the only one I know with the red logo.
Could be Saturn.
90s though?
I don't know. So...
it's 2000s.
A major.
No, it's probably Saturn. Anyway, yeah. So he assesses the wreck and pretty much assesses if the company needs to make a recall on these cars.
Right.
Very morbid job because essentially evaluating human lives in dollar signs.
Exactly. The book goes into a little more detail about what he does and how all the math works, right? Mm-hmm. They even give a few examples, which is funny, which is kind of cool. I really liked the crash that he goes to examine is the charred car with the guy inside, who is melted into the seat. Ugh.
Yeah,
but this also may spark his soap thing as well. Because remember, Tyler introduced him to it, but he's Tyler, so he had to get it from somewhere.
Yeah.
So anyway, but this is where he meets Tyler, is on
his plane ride home.
Right. And first off, my buddy Kale has always said this. If we were ever that ripped, we would also cut the bottom third of our shirts off so you could see the V. And that's what Tyler does.
The cum gutters?
All right. Wasn't going to go there, but yeah. Yeah, the cum gutters. You know what I mean? The penis pointer. The V. Is what we would do.
Well, yeah, man, because my man Brad Pitt doesn't age apparently and has been ripped since the 90s. I mean, shit, even in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, my man is still
so ripped.
He's so jacked.
But so this film is so influential, and him specifically, because trainers, I've heard this so many times. When people go to a personal trainer, they go, "We can't give you the Fight Club Brad Pitt body." Like, that's the first. Be like, don't ask. We can't do it.
Yeah,
he's different. You know,
Brad Pitt has no metabolism.
Yeah, and so
he willed his body like that.
You know, which is so. That's the power of this movie, right?
Yeah.
That it's like, oh my God. And that's, of course, how ripped he is.
Yeah.
Where we're just like, Jesus Christ, you know?
My man got that superhero body before superhero bodies was even a thing.
But it's lean. Anyway, so big fan of the Fight Club Brad Pitt body.
Brad Pitt's probably watching this and he's like, thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, I'm going to leave them a comment. Thanks, guys.
Oh, thanks, guys. So thanks, Brad.
Thanks, Brad, for giving us unrealistic expectations to try to achieve for.
Thank you, Bradley.
Bradley? He's Cuzzo.
Thanks, Bradford. Anyway.
That was a Macklemore reference I just made, and you didn't applaud, so
nope.
I'm just going to cut myself.
Jesus Christ.
So he meets Tyler.
They have the same briefcase.
Yeah, which should have triggered you like, huh? They have the same briefcase. But I gotta say, if I ever met a salesman like this that was that slick, like, I sell soap.
Yeah.
I'd be like, how much is it?
Yeah, how much is it?
I will buy all of it right now.
Right now. Yeah. Let me get my wallet.
Let me get my wallet for that human fat soap.
Yep. It's got to be dope soap, man. It's got to be like the best soap.
Yeah.
If it's human fat soap.
For sure.
So yeah, he has a very interesting career, sort of.
Yeah.
And he lives in a very interesting place. He lives on this house on Paper Street.
Which is where the soap company gets its name from.
Yes.
Paper Street Soap Company.
And it's such an interesting house, because obviously that's, you know, where the narrator lives, you know, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Which
he doesn't just come upon this place on accident.
Which, you know, I want to dedicate a part of the episode to talking about what the narrator is actually doing, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a very interesting house. And I love that the basement is perpetually flooded.
Yeah. And what I really love is the isolation of the house, because they get into it a little bit just by omission, but they say at night they are completely alone half a mile in every direction, right?
Yeah.
In the book, there are factories that are operational during the day. So it's only at night when they're completely isolated. But during the day, those factories are actually working factories.
Okay.
Around the house that they live in. But it's so dilapidated. And so it's so anti-consumerism, right? This is just getting by the bare minimum. Right?
Yeah, they have to literally boil the water and then stream it through a strainer for their coffee.
So gross.
I know.
So gross. But one of my favorite things about the house is the Reader's Digests and I Am Jack's medulla oblongata.
Yeah.
I Am Jack's colon.
The former owner was a bit of a shut-in.
And so a lot of fans think that is the narrator's name. They call him Jack. I don't think that is correct.
Yeah, that would be...
First off, in the book, it's Joe. But they all have different names. It's not just Joe. Eventually, he just does the Joe thing.
Mm-hmm.
But at first, it's like, I am Bill's whatever. I am whatever. So I am Jill's nipples, right? Shit like that.
Right.
But in this one, it's just Jack, pretty much.
I don't know.
Besides the Jill thing.
I feel like that would be too easy.
That it's his name? I agree.
I feel like David Fincher wouldn't be... David Fincher and the author, I think that would be too... That's too easy.
I agree. I think that's too easy. And
I don't think we're meant to know his name.
Yeah.
Surely. Much like, Tenet. We're not really meant to know...
The protagonist's name.
Yeah, he's just the protagonist. But anyway.
And Edward Norton is the narrator.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he's the narrator. I don't think we're meant to know his name. And I think it's because, most people, they want the main character that they love to have a name. That way they could be like...
Yeah, I think so. That makes a lot of sense.
That way they could be like, yeah, man, I dressed up as Jack from Fight Club, What
a boring costume that would be.
I know, just a suit and tie, make your nose look a little broken, and there you go.
Yeah.
But I feel like some people would be like, oh, so who are you? Well, I'm the narrator.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just don't get it.
We're leaving this party. Let's go.
So once they decide, so Tyler, of course, is the one that brings up, I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
Yes, the infamous real punching of Brad Pitt's ear.
Yeah.
If anyone didn't know that, Edward Norton really did punch Brad Pitt in the ear because Brad Pitt really told him, I really want you to hit me. It wasn't just the line. Brad Pitt was really hit me, do it.
And so this trajectory to them fighting each other, to people watching and then wanting to join in and finding it therapeutic, this is sort of, in a way, a very natural progression of narrative. I buy this. Right?
Yeah, because, it starts off as a very cathartic thing for the narrator, because now that he can't go to his groups, even though he and Marla came up with a good system to share the groups,
they did.
He finds this more cathartic for him.
It's more beneficial for his overall well-being, which of course it isn't, but that's...
But in the video from Alien's Guide, they talk about how this is more primal and more...
Right, and this dives into that sort of what we would now call, well, not we, people would call toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
Right?
Just fighting each other just for the hell of it.
This is the opposite of just crying in each other's arms and pouring out your feelings. This is beating the living shit out of each other.
Yes.
Until we feel better, right?
Right. Until someone says stop, and then we're like, we good? We good. Okay.
So, Lou's bar.
He's not saying lose. I thought he was saying lose, as in L-O-S-E.
Oh my god.
L-O-U''S.
Yeah, Lou's bar. They know, they've seen the movie. Lou's bar.
I don't know. Have they?
I don't know.
If they're listening to us, they haven't seen it.
I hope they have. Anyway,
so Lou's bar.
Yeah, Lou's bar. I really like this setting. I really like that it's in the basement and it's sort of like this shady thing, and it makes it a little more tough, a little more masculine. Even though a fight club is, of course, pretty high on the masculine scale.
Yeah.
Putting it in the basement of this dive bar.
And as soon as they walk in, the bartender knows, out. Everyone out. We're closed.
Yep. And I love that actor, by the way. I've seen him in a bunch of stuff, but
he looked familiar, but I didn't look him up.
That's okay. Actually, you would know him. He is the Irish assassin with the Lucky Charms
in Austin
Powers.
Me Lucky Charms. Are the kids trying to get them? What? Okay.
Yeah, that's so Austin Powers fans would know who he is. But anyway, so and of course Tom Waits playing in that tracking shot. God, I love Tom Waits so much.
As everyone knows, Jeremy loves Tom Waits.
I love Tom Waits so much. So great shot, great sequence.
Yes.
And of course, one of your favorite scenes ends up being when Lou comes down to confront them about this hangout.
Yeah.
And Brad Pitt's sort of meltdown.
He intentionally lets Lou, the owner of Lou's bar, beat the shit out of him.
Yeah.
Kind of to prove a point to his, I'm just going to say it, his cult. They have become a cult.
Yeah.
To prove a point to them that even though, like, I'm taking a beating from this guy, I'm not backing down. And he lets Lou break his nose. Really bloody him up.
Yeah, and it's so gross when he just
he jumps on him and is just like,
and just lets the blood drip and the snot and the spit all over Lou. Now, what's really interesting about this sequence, when Tyler is getting beat up, you can see Edward Norton react in the background. So when he gets hit in the stomach, the narrator leans over.
I missed that.
And when he gets an uppercut, he lifts his chin up. Sorry, that probably didn't go well with the microphone, but he lifts his chin up. As if
now I'm gonna have to rewatch it.
Of course. So there's, I mean, it's not meant to be blatantly obvious, of course, but he is moving. He is mirroring Brad Pitt's movements.
Right.
As he's getting hit.
Damn it.
I know.
I mean, I was gonna rewatch it eventually anyway. Now I'm gonna really have to rewatch it so I can.
It's absolutely incredible.
But yeah, I love that because Lou is gonna kick them out of the basement, and so he climbs on top of him, is just letting all the blood drip onto Lou.
It's so
and
gross.
Lou's bodyguard is grabbing him by the leg, while Brad Pitt has his hand wrapped around Lou's tie and is pulling him. And it's just, promise me, Lou. Promise me you won't take this away. And he's like, okay, I promise. Because he just wants him off of him. And I just love it because, like, the bodyguard it's like this tug of war trying to get him off of his boss. And it was just funny.
Now, here's where the film sort of switches a little, is when Tyler starts handing out
homework assignments.
Right.
Which I love that he calls them homework assignments.
Homework assignments.
Well, and it starts right after that. He's like, homework assignment. I want you all to go out and fight a stranger, but I want you to lose.
And, of course, some of the most comedic parts of the whole film, right, are these little...
Are these guys trying to pick fights with people?
Pick fights, right? And one of the most uproarious ones is the guy spraying the priest with the hose. You can actually see the camera shake a little bit.
Because the camera guy was laughing?
Because the camera guy's laughing too hard. Yeah.
That's funny. I thought Bob's interactions were the funniest, of him trying to chase down people.
Yeah.
Those were...
Who's the like, knock shit out of people's hands and shit. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
And of course, when this movie was out in theaters, one of the biggest laughs is when, right after that, the narrator walks into his boss's office.
Oh, I was like, yes.
Yeah.
He's going to do it. He's going to fight his boss.
And what's...
Because throughout the whole movie, Tyler and the narrator have been asking, like, okay, like, anyone from history, who would you fight?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'd fight Gandhi. Which, that was like that. And I love Tyler's like, good choice.
That's a good choice. That's a good answer.
But I love that, because the first time he asks him that, he's like, oh, I'd fight my boss.
Yeah.
Which, his boss, I can't think of the actor's name, great character actor.
Yeah.
One of the first things I ever saw him in was Tommy Boy. Mm-hmm. He's the guy who's like on the board of directors. But yeah, as soon as he walks into his boss's office, I was like, yes, he's gonna do it.
And another brilliant breadcrumb is when the narrator says, I was reminded of my first fight with Tyler. And of course, he's beating himself up.
Right? Fuck! Didn't pick that up either. Son of a bitch.
And so, again, by doing that, by losing this fight, he gets to work from home. And now this is no longer a barrier. Now we're no longer having to sit through, which makes me, I don't know, it's this, some of this stuff in film like this, where they have to sort of tiptoe around explaining real life, right? Like going to work. Like, how do you explain him going to work if he's doing all of this all the time? You know, it sort of becomes this sort of hindrance in this sort of like, to me, it is tension, but it's sort of like, ugh, right? And so I like that they sort of get rid of that.
Yeah,
right?
like,
I no longer have to worry about him having to explain all of his injuries at work, right?
Right.
Because I'm kind of tired of him, you know, people like, oh, look, there's only so many times, you know, you can sit through people going like, what the fuck happened to him, right?
Yeah. Well, and of course, I just love the before the fight, the final interaction he has with this boss of the whole, like, first rule of Fight Club is don't talk about Fight Club.
Oh,
and he's like, I would say whoever printed that out was a dangerous person. And he threatens his boss in the third person. And then Marla calls him, I'm sorry, I have to take this. And his boss just kind of quickly walks out of his cubicle.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is that your blood? He looks at it and goes, some of it, yeah.
As he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
Some of it.
After we've heard him say, like, oh, no, I don't smoke.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like, that. But also more clues that...
Edward Norton did agree to smoke for this, but not for Rounders. He didn't smoke for Rounders, but
really?
He was asked to for Rounders, and he said no.
As we learned from the 12 Mighty Orphans set, do you think this was actual tobacco cigarettes or tea leaves?
I don't know, but if David Fincher asks you to do something, you're probably going to be like, okay, whatever you want, man. And it tells you just how good this movie is that actors are willing to
Anyway.
So then these homework assignments become Project Mayhem eventually, but one of my favorite sequences is destroying these landmarks and sort of like, I forgot what he actually called it, but like the window displays of things and whatever. And I loved, which I don't know if anyone would get this now, but the giant magnets.
Them erasing the videotapes?
The VHS tapes, yeah. Which I love. And by the way, if you want to erase a VHS tape, that's how you do it. You run a magnet over it, a very strong magnet.
If anyone wants a good example, Be Kind, Rewind with Jack Black and Mos Def.
Be Kind, Rewind. A very underrated film. I saw it when it came out, and I really enjoyed it.
100% agree.
And I haven't seen it since then. So.
It's a good movie, but it is one of those... You kind of watch it once, and you remember what happens, and you enjoy it, and you're good.
The magnet on that was great.
But I love how they really weren't being that subtle about it. Like they were, the guys kind of feeding the extension cord. They're just kind of like.
But again, that leads to the absurdity of all of this, right? And of course the outrageousness of how much things have escalated.
Yeah. Going from just simple, doing that to. Blowing up a computer window shop.
Now, did you catch the baseball bats? Here's what I mean. So when they are hitting the cars with the baseball bats, making the alarms go off, the alarms only go off when Edward Norton hits the...
Fuck! Son of a bitch.
Also, the guy on the bus only apologizes to Edward Norton when he bumps into him.
See, I actually had that I kind of caught, but I just thought he was being a dick to Edward Norton.
Yeah. No, he only apologizes to Edward Norton because...
Tyler's not there.
Son of a
bitch.
And the woman who is buying the soap is only talking to Edward Norton.
No, she's talking to Tyler. 'Cause Edward's kind of just standing there.
Okay, that's when he was Tyler. Okay, sorry. Anyway, but there's all that stuff in the movie throughout the entire thing. Yeah. Which, could you imagine having to time that correctly with the baseball bats?
Yeah.
The alarm going off only when Edward Norton hits it.
I know. I feel like it wouldn't be that hard, but I feel like they had to be like.
But Edward Norton and Brad Pitt both agreed and bonded on the set of hating the VW Beetle.
So that's design. Why they're both like.
Yeah, the new design, they hated it. And which I agree, it's awful, looks terrible.
Yet somehow they've stuck with it for so long.
So long, I know. Go back to the original, the body, man. The original VW Bug is badass. I really like the anyway.
I never told you this. When I was buying my first car, kind of a tangent. When I was buying my first car, my dad misunderstood me how much money I made because this was when I was still working at Simply Mac, and he thought I was making like $35,000 a month. And that's how much I was making a year. Oh and so he's like, "Oh, if you're making that, we can get you a brand new car then." And of course, I didn't correct him until later. But he took me to the VW, and they had like a limited edition VW Bug that looked like the one from the 60s.
Ooh.
And I actually sat in it and really liked it. Only reason I did get it is one, because it was a brand new car. Yeah. I couldn't make those payments. No, and two, even though it was pretty slick, and it had white wall tires too, man.
Oh, that's so cool.
It was pretty slick. I also know that VW, any of their cars, also need a lot of work and maintenance.
Yeah.
And so I was like...
Yeah, foreign cars, any part's going to be twice as expensive.
Yeah, so... But I almost had one.
I
was that close.
That close.
Anyway,
damn it.
That's fucking funny, though, because that makes more sense why they hit one car, they skip it, then they get to the Beetle, and they're just like...
Yeah. That's one. Yeah, because it's dumb.
That's funny.
It's a bad car. Okay, so this is when the narrator sort of starts to lose control a little bit, because then we get the... this might be out of order, but... or I'm skipping ahead, but we're getting to the Jared Leto...
Oh, yeah, Jared Leto's in this movie.
Jared Leto's in the movie.
Another movie where he bleached his eyebrows. Oh, wait, no, he shaved them off for suicide. Squid.
But yeah, he bleached his hair and eyebrows. And the narrator almost kills him.
Oh, right? Yes. Well, because this is... So, Tyler has now doing this whole applicant thing, and the narrator's like, applicant? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And Jared Leto's one of the applicants. And then this is when he finds out about them setting fire to the building.
Mm-hmm. Oh, with the smiley
face.
Yep.
And then they go and they threaten the police commissioner. Mm-hmm. And then when they're leaving, that's when Edward Norton, because he says, I am Jack's feeling of rejection or something like that.
Yeah.
And then that's when he almost kills him.
Yeah, and so... Jared Leto has actually been there pretty much the whole time. He's just been in the background of these fights and things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where he sort of gets in the forefront of the story and becomes more important, especially when the narrator almost kills him.
Yeah, because the narrator feels like Tyler is almost making him his second in command now, not the narrator anymore.
Yeah.
And I love what he says after he just beats the piss out of him. I wanted to destroy something beautiful. I mean, it's a little too poetic, but it was good. It was a good line. It was a good Goosebumps walk away.
It's a good Goosebumps walk away. Yeah, you're right. It was a good Goosebumps walk away.
But I don't think Tyler Durden had Goosebumps. He was probably like,
well,
it was also
right. So, well, yeah. So. Project Mayhem starts to get a little more out of control. And when another great scene, of course, this movie's filled with great scenes, is in the car. When the narrator is confronting Tyler about Project Mayhem.
Yeah, and how, like, why haven't you included me in all this?
Right.
And his, the cult, now officially they're a cult now, is, first rule of Project Mayhem is don't ask about Project Mayhem.
Exactly.
In unison.
So when the movie was screened for critics, they told David Fincher, they're like, there's a mistake. And he goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, when the car crashes, Edward Norton gets out of the driver's seat. And he goes, it's not a mistake. So when the car crashes,
and I'm trying to...
they pull Edward Norton out of the driver's seat, not the passenger seat, because Edward Norton's driving, not Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is driving when they crash, of course, but Brad Pitt doesn't.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Oh my god!
And so they're like, "Hey, pause. There's a mistake. He got out of the driver's seat." He goes, "Keep fucking watching the movie." He goes,
"Keep watching.
Keep watching the movie."
He throws his popcorn out and keep watching.
I like the idea of them having popcorn, but anyway,
at his own movie.
Yeah, they don't, like, one of the critics has red vines. Like, what are you talking about?
What's your problem?
Man? So, isn't that super cool that they pull him out of the
Fuck, dude. Son of a bitch. See, now
and, of course, the look on the guy's face in the back seat is sort of telling, because he's arguing with nobody, right? Edward Norton is.
Yeah.
And so they're like, what the fuck is his problem, right? Which happens quite a bit in the movie, but
you know, and you would think that these guys
be used to it by now.
Wouldn't be following him this deep, you know, seeing that
that's a good point.
Seeing that he is more unhinged than they are,
right?
Which again, I really want to talk about, which I feel like we're getting to here in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Fuck, dude, I didn't catch that.
And there is a scene where it's when the narrator has lost the most time. He doesn't know what day it is. He doesn't know where he's been. And he walks into a room and he's holding files. He's holding folders. They're Project Mayhem folders. And he doesn't even realize that he's holding them. Because he feels that he still hasn't been included in all of this. Yet he's holding... Anyway. So let's go ahead and jump into... Fight Club and Project Mayhem has hit a nationwide scale.
Yes, because Tyler, who has seemingly been missing, has essentially been recruiting nationwide.
Yeah, and I love the scene with the bartender in the halo.
Yeah, because he got that badly fucked up.
Goes, is this a test? Like, it's not a test, man. Where's Tyler? He goes, this is a test.
Are you sure this isn't a test?
Of course, think of the question. It's completely ridiculous on his end, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where we get sort of the first sort of inkling that there is no there is no narrator, but there is no Tyler Durden, because he is Tyler Durden, right?
Right.
And then we meet up with Marla again. We've sort of yada a lot of Marla stuff, but Marla is sleeping with Tyler. That's a great sequence of Tyler going to rescue Marla with no dialogue. He doesn't have any.
Yeah.
Marla's doing all the talking. And of course it makes complete sense that she's not even questioning who he is. She knows who he is, right?
Fuck, motherfucker. I swear to you, I watched the movie.
I know you did. And of course, we yada through the hand soap making scene. Where
with the lie.
Yeah, where in the book it's sort of blatantly obvious what the shape of it is his lips. So the reaction is with the saliva. Did you realize that?
See, I had a suspicion because I thought it was almost like a tequila shot kind of thing because he kisses his hand.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he's gonna kiss it because it's gonna hurt it. You know what I mean? Uh-huh. But really, he needs there to be saliva there for a reaction to take place, and that's why it's in the shape of lips, which I didn't realize before until I was listening to the book. So I'm learning new things too, Rain.
So that means, okay, so we've essentially gotten to the point where the narrator is now realizing that he and Tyler Durden are the same person.
Up until he actually flat out says, we're the same person. And Brad Pitt actually chipped his tooth for this. That's his real tooth, and that's really chipped.
He chipped it earlier. It was chipped earlier, but yeah, I noticed that. I was like, is his tooth chipped?
For real. Brad Pitt took a nail clipper to it or something and chipped his tooth, yeah.
God,
I know.
But I love how when the narrator is asking Marla, and she pretty much says okay, Tyler.
Yeah.
And I love that he just appears and he looks completely different.
Yeah.
His head shaved and he's got those almost
those sunglasses
Kurt
are
Cobain
so
sunglasses,
cool.
And he's just like, I told you not to tell her about me.
Yeah. And his tank top is so dope. It's the porn tank top, but it's still cool. Anyway, so this is where, you have to kind of go back. Sorry, I'm scratching my leg. It's so itchy.
He was bitten by ants while doing yard work.
Ants.
And dude, I have cortisone.
I've scratched it raw, you guys.
I have cortisone. Before you leave, use the cortisone.
Fine. So this is where you kind of have to go back retroactively and decide for yourself, because Tyler didn't show up until Marla was there. she knows him as Tyler Durden.
Mm-hmm.
She says his name is Tyler Durden.
Yeah, because she gets cut off right when she asks Edward Norton, what do they call you? And then the bus drives by her, and so she gets cut off.
Yeah. Which means, because his name, the narrator's name is not Tyler Durden, right?
Right.
This is when, of course, that split personality takes place, right?
Right.
What used to be called multi-personalities, right?
Yes, and now it's a dissociative identity disorder.
Boom.
DID.
So, because I remember when I saw it the first time, I was like, wait, his name was always Tyler? No.
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 Well, because you get a little idea that he comes up with names with the groups.
Right, yeah.
Cornelius.
Yeah.
So, which kind of tells me that he still wanted to keep her at arm's length.
Yeah.
So he gave her Tyler Durden.
And then you think that's, sort of when... Anyway, never.
Anyway, well, so, okay. So this is what I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to talk about, like, really thinking about, now knowing that they're the same person, thinking about everything that we've seen happen to Ed up until this point.
And we do get that montage.
Yeah. I just mainly want to talk about, like, the scene in which he comes home from work and Tyler and Marla are having sex upstairs, but he's downstairs.
Okay.
Because Tyler kind of explained it to him. Like, he's like, when you're me, you see yourself watching me.
Yeah.
And so I'm assuming then that's what it is, that he's
he
almost
imagined himself.
that he's actually down, his docile self is downstairs hating listening to that.
Yeah. I think that's
so fucking wild.
Because I've thought of that before too. And I think that's what I came up with he's imagining himself down there.
It's so fucking wild,
or it
dude.
could be one of those things where it's like it's just for
the movie
purposes.
That during sex he's not actually thinking about himself. But here's the other thing. Marla interacts with him downstairs, so which means that he would have had to finish having sex with her, put on those specific clothes, and get back downstairs.
Well, I mean, I think that perhaps the different clothes thing is in his head, maybe.
I don't know.
Because, he's...
Well, I mean...
He's in these shared spaces with Tyler, and of course they're wearing different clothing, right?
So, so he's not actually wearing the clothes that Tyler's wearing.
No, I don't think so. They're too cool.
It's kind of like... and I don't know if you've seen this movie, Youth in Revolt, with Michael Cera. Kind of a similar thing. Michael Cera comes up with a alter ego because he has to do some terrible things to be with, like, the girl he loves. And so he comes up with an alter ego to do the things, but it's actually him doing them.
Right.
But his alter ego wears different clothes, even has a pencil-thin John Waters mustache.
John Waters mustache.
I think you'd like Youth in Revolt.
I doubt it.
How come?
I don't know. I don't really like Michael Cera that much.
What?
I don't know.
But it's got Zach Galifianakis in it.
Jesus Christ.
For like 5 seconds.
So, let's move on for Michael Cera.
But anyway, but I
get what you're saying.
Yeah, because, so which probably means he finished up with sex
And just
put his clothes back on, went downstairs.
Yeah.
And then reverted back into the narrator.
Which is why her reactions are so like, dude, you're a nut job, right? Or
yeah,
like,
why she goes from 0 to 10 like that.
Exactly, because to her, that's what's happening to her. Is like he's going from
0 to 10.
0 to 10. Exactly. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the movie ends, of course, with Project Mayhem going through with it. They do end up, setting off the bombs. He did not stop it from happening. He kills Tyler in the process.
Yes, because everyone knows your imaginary friends live in your cheek.
That's right.
So just shoot yourself in the cheek. And your imaginary friends.
Shoot yourself in the cheek. That was hard to say.
But I love that even Tyler becomes self-aware at one point when he fires the gun at him. He's like, you're firing a gun at your imaginary friend near 400 gallons of nitroglycerin. I thought that was fucking funny.
It is funny.
But I still love that we've seen the security monitors of Edward Norton still just doing the shit to himself.
Yeah.
But it also made me kind of think of that the thought of Tyler Durden is so strong that, I mean, it's not this, but the thought of that he has become so powerful and so ingrained in the narrator's life that really only narrator sees it, that he's not actually dragging himself across the parking lot. But I know that's what's happening. He is dragging himself across the parking lot, throwing himself through the parking dude's little booth.
Yeah.
You know. But yeah, so yeah, he doesn't even stop Project Mayhem.
And, you know, the final line to Marla, you met me in a really strange time in my life. Meaning, of course, that Tyler hasn't always been there, and, you know, this is really all Marla's fault, essentially.
Yeah.
But, and that, you know, it's sort of it's a bummer ending because all of these, you know, buildings are collapsing.
But, as we learned, there's no one in them.
There's no one in them.
So no one got hurt. Well, I mean, the people near the buildings
people got hurt, but...
Yeah. No one probably died. I mean, yeah, Bob died.
His name is Robert Paulson, but but I really do like that. You know, it's sort of a bittersweet ending, I guess you could say, because I think the narrator's going to be okay. You know, with Marla.
But do you think? But see, here's the thing, though. You know, he tries to turn himself in, and his cult has, which I want to bring up real quick.
Sure. I mean, we're done with
not necessarily
talking about the movie. So, yeah.
Well, not necessarily an oops, I forgot. Just more of a, you know, because we were talking about how, you know, Tyler / the narrator wants everyone to have their own identity. But he forms a cult.
Right. It forms a conformist type. You have to wear black.
Shirt, black pants, black boots. You got to shave your head.
Yep.
You don't have names.
So he's taking away their...
identity.
Right. Their individuality. That's a great point. It's essentially...
kind of hypocritical.
Kind of counterintuitive. I understand. Yeah. I see that.
But he doesn't make Jared Leto shave his head, though.
Well, would you? Look at that hair. You know? I mean, come on. Listen, he knows a good thing when he's got it. And he's like, hey, man, you can keep the hair.
You know what? Keep that.
He's like, I need it for 30 Seconds to Mars, man. Dude, which he just started 30 Seconds to Mars shortly after the movie came out.
That's funny. I've often wondered, because, you know, he was an actor before he became a rock star.
Yeah.
You know, I know a lot of people think it's the other way around.
Which, of course, I think Brad Pitt did it on purpose. Looked at him when he said rock star, because he was forming his band at the time, maybe. Because he does look at Jared Leto when he says rock star. When he's like, you be rock stars, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't remember the exact lines of dialogue, but
yeah, man. The movie doesn't really have a catharsis at the end.
Not necessarily. It does have a spliced in wiener.
Well, because this is a capitalist product in and of itself.
Yeah. So
it has to be corrupted.
And it's got to have that spliced in wiener.
As Brad Pitt says, a big old cock.
I didn't do it for this time, but I have listened to the commentary before with Edward Norton and Brad Pitt and David Fincher, and Edward Norton said there's David Fincher giving his cameo as he does in all of his movies.
Could you imagine that, dude? No wonder why he makes good movies, bro.
It was really funny. Okay, review time. So sometimes people just don't get it, you know?
Yeah, I was on to point out that I was on IMDb, just curious, looked at user reviews of Candyman.
Oh, okay.
Nothing but ones.
Wow.
Almost all of them saying the same thing about how it was too political, how this and that, and I'm like, you didn't get it then, because a lot of it was pointing to they're only killing white people, and I'm like,
anyway,
only white people die in it. But it's like, then you didn't get it.
Well, and also it's a continuation of the original film, which is also the same. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But
yeah. Anyway, point being,
they don't get it.
They don't get it.
So Roger Ebert's one of these people who didn't get it. Now he does. He does mention that yes, he understands the satire, right? And he understands,
but he just didn't get it.
He's too old, I think,
well,
and that's not
was too old.
Was too old. I think that this is a uniquely Gen X movie, it made by and for Gen X, I think, and millennials, we just get it. You know what I mean?
I was like, don't you mean millennials?
I do not.
Because Gen X was before millennials, right?
Yeah, I think
that's right. Because Gen Z is after
and that's
us.
That's what Brad Pitt and Edward Norton are. And so, I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah, they're older than us.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if they were the one before. I don't think they were the one before that. So they're Gen X. And so I think that this is a uniquely Gen X movie, which Roger Ebert not being a part of this.
Yeah, Roger Ebert will probably be part of the boomer.
Yeah.
Baby boomer generation.
Boom 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 boom
boom boom boom booms.
Boom 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 booms.
Boom booms.
Boom booms. And yeah, he's a boom boom. And and so
he's probably rolling in his grave right now.
And so I think that, where he was saying, and I wrote, he enjoyed the first third of this movie, right?
Okay.
The what I would say the fun part of the movie.
Pretty much everything leading up to their first, probably Fight Club.
Yeah, that's exactly when he stopped liking it. Is what he said.
I guess he stopped liking it right when the Fight Club is formed, and Tyler's like,
yes,
the rules of Fight Club.
Yes, that's when he stopped enjoying the movie, and which is interesting because then he just thought that it was, just over the top, gratuitous violence, and it basically, men being macho men, but sort of like fake macho men. He calls Tyler a bully, and he says that Tyler holds no useful truths. And that, he's basically just saying stuff and.
Well, I would agree with that.
Well, yeah.
Mainly because he is this well of useless knowledge, except for how to make soap.
Yeah.
That's pretty useful. And I should point out, here's an oops I forgot.
Okay. We're not even close to
before we do a wrap up. I'd rather say it now before I really forget.
Right.
The fat bag scene, that was the only scene that grossed me out.
Oh, it was gross.
Because
he tried to catch it with his hand,
and I was just like, huh. But what really got me is when it rips on the barbed wire. I was just like, oh, yeah. Like I was like, please hurry. Please. I didn't look away, but I was like, please. Okay, thank God.
In the book, it's Marla's mother's fat. Marla's mother.
It's very oddly specific.
Well, Marla's mother gets liposuction regularly and gives the fat to Marla.
To do what with?
To if she ever wanted any sort of procedure done that involved fat, she has it, right? And they would put it in the narrator and Tyler's freezer, but they would steal it for soap. Anyway, so he understands the film doesn't agree with Tyler. He gets that. He gets that it's satire, and he gets that it's over the top on purpose. But,
because it has to be, yeah.
But he just doesn't like it. And you know what? That's fine. He gave it 2 out of 4, so I gave it a 50. So Adam Smith from Empire.
Empire's a little bit more lenient.
Empire's a little more, they're a little more hip, right? Now both...
Oh, word?
Oh, word?
Both, Brian, stop trying to be hip.
Oh, word?
Oh, word?
Both Eberts and Smiths are from 99. So these were when it came out, right? He compared Fight Club to Natural Born Killers.
Really?
Crash. Cronenberg's Crash. Not the stupid racism is bad Crash, which, duh, You ever seen Crash?
Isn't that the one with Jason Statham? No, I'm thinking of
Crank.
That's Crank. Wait. Didn't Guy Ritchie do Crash? Wait, isn't Brad Pitt in Crash?
No.
What the fuck am I thinking of? I know this name.
The crash that they are referring to is with James Spader and Holly Hunter.
I don't know that one.
Okay, that's fine. It's about.
I know James Spader.
Well, it's about a couple that is aroused by car crashes. It's a David Cronenberg. It's very strange. But anyway,
Well, yeah, because it's from David Cronenberg.
it's Cronenberg, right? And then Reservoir Dogs. They compare it to Reservoir Dogs as well.
Okay.
I like the comparison to Natural Born Killers because Natural Born Killers is a satire.
It's a satire on actually this day and age's culture's obsession with serial killers.
And making them into celebrities, right?
Yeah. Even though they butchered Quentin Tarantino's script.
My God.
Oh, I will continually say that.
My God.
I will maybe see the movie because I love me some Woody Harrelson.
I am a fan of Natural Born Killers.
I love me some Woody Harrelson and some RDJ.
Possible pick for the
Son of
season,
a
by the way. Okay, so I like that he did that, and I liked that he's younger, of course, and so he's in on it. He's in on the joke.
Yeah, so he gets it.
Right. Now, here's what's really interesting is Rebecca Renner. She writes for the Literary Hub. This was in 2019.
Ooh.
Okay, I do have screenshots of this that I might pull up here in a second, but she loves this movie, and she understood it from the get-go. She
got it from the second.
A little older than we are, but younger than both of these guys, right?
Gotcha.
Sort of was aware of it when it came out, but watched it on DVD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we did.
Blu-ray?
Like we did. And she was in on the joke as well. Mm-hmm. And she knew that this was anti-capitalist, conformist, anti-toxic masculinity, right?
Right.
And sort of anti-consumerism, but so outlandish and so outrageous that it's also making fun of Tyler for being this way, right? That not only is it portraying these ideas, but it's also saying how absurd it is to be too far that way.
Right.
Right? And how insane things can get if you actually gave someone with these ideologies
enough
power to change it, right?
Yeah.
Which is nuts. But what really struck me in this review was the people who didn't get this movie were still buying into, quote, the American dream. In this movie says the American dream is a lie, right? The American dream is lying to you. There is no such thing, right?
Right.
Now, I don't know how much you want to buy into that. I like the idea of this movie saying the American dream is a lie. What you have been taught to believe is the American dream is a lie. Because of the consumerism, capitalism, stuff like that.
Right. A word.
Our generation,
millennials, who apparently are ruining this country,
of course, has an interesting, at least from what I've spoke to other people about, and what I've heard other people say. The classic American dream is to be sort of, and of course this is like in a nutshell and very, watered down, but it's sort of like being financially independent, not having to worry about anything, owning a home, having 2.5 children.
2.5?
That's the average.
What the fuck?
The average American has 2.5 children.
Are the half animals?
No.
Just a literal half.
Yeah, when you do the math, it's 2.5. The average is 2.5. I can't believe you've never heard that before.
No.
It's like the nuclear family, what you would think it's 2.5 children. So, what I'm finding in our generation is that we don't give a shit about owning a house. I don't know anybody who cares about owning a house. Now, I might be wrong, but I don't care if I own a house in my lifetime.
I mean,
do you care about owning a house?
I'd like to have a house.
Okay.
I don't want to live in an apartment for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, I would like. I mean, sure. Yeah, I'd like to own a house because I don't have to pay anyone to live there anymore.
That's true.
I would just have to pay to keep the lights on.
Huh, yeah.
Because a mortgage is just essentially a rent. You know, I'm paying the bank to eventually own the house.
There's a T in the word mortgage. You know that? I learned that last year. So, but anyway, I think that we also understand Fight Club in a unique way because our version of the American dream is changing as well.
True.
And it's not the sort of white picket fence, nuclear family American dream because I think, you know...
Well, I also...
Opportunities are different now.
True.
Of course.
Yeah. Especially now. Especially 2021.
Jesus Christ. If I hear another if I hear another like teenager or whatever say that they want to be famous on TikTok, I'm going to blow my brains out.
Yeah.
Or, you know what?
Fuck TikTok.
I'm going to blow their brains out and then, you know, do the time. Don't get a lawyer. Be a man.
Do the time.
Be a man.
As we're quoting TikToks. I was quoting those to Ashley the other day. I was like, don't go to the hospital. Be a man. And she was like, what the fuck did you just say?
Deal with it. Be a man. Now, again, that is in and of itself a satire on toxic masculinity as well. So it all ties together.
Yeah. So I think the other reason why we, as millennials, get it is because, you know, I don't want to fully attribute to this, but we had the internet. You know, the internet wasn't what it was, what it is today. Or back then, I should say. Right. You know, because the internet in the 90s was mainly blogs.
Yeah, barely anything.
You know, chat room here or there. But now we have access to, you know, history websites and, you know, reviews. And, you know, we have access literally to everything.
And, of course, time helps this as well. So, like, I'm thinking about films that maybe people don't like right now. What comes to mind, and it's going to really, but if he listened to this, which he doesn't, like, a film that people hate, in my experience, is the film Mother, which I love, by the way.
I've never seen it. I've seen scenes.
Now this is just a hypothesis. This is just an example.
Well, I know where you're going with it.
That in time,
people will love it.
Maybe.
Well, do you think just because, much like this film, people don't get it?
I don't know, because I think people do get it. I
mean, Darren was...
It might have been a bad example.
Well, no, I see what you're saying.
Because, you know, I think that... Because people may get it, but they might think it's pretentious, which it is. But I like it.
Well, I find it interesting you bring up Aronofsky, because he was a little heavy-handed with the metaphor.
Yeah.
Jennifer Lawrence is Mother Earth.
Yeah.
Javier Bardem is God. I mean, God probably does look like that.
I mean, obviously.
But I think the reason why people hate it is, of course, the baby scene, which is meant to symbolize the Jesus Christ and the killing of pretty much religion.
Yeah, and
I get it. I mean, that's not the reason why I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see it because I'm not interested in it.
Well, it was potentially a pick for me at this season, but I mean,
it's not. I'll tell you.
It's on your don'ts?
It's not on the don'ts.
Yes!
But it's
wild.
When I've seen the scene where they beat the shit out of her.
Oh, yeah. At the end, yeah.
Very real.
Very real.
But anyway.
I'm looking at your shelf right now. Maybe there's another example. Because, like, well, I'm trying to think of something that's, like, recently sort of been... that's recently been revisited and beloved where it wasn't before, and I'm trying to think of an example of that because this film is obviously that as well.
Yeah.
Because you always hear, like, in retrospect, like, no one went to go see Shawshank, and then when it came out on home video and DVD, the popularity rose exponentially. Right, and so it's one of those things where and of course we're too young to remember that, right?
I'm trying to think because now you got me thinking too. I'm trying to think, and I'm not trying to think of ones that have reached cult status.
That's a little different
because that is different. You know, like our 100th episode is a cult film. Technically, it really is because
literally there's a religion.
Yeah.
So
yeah, dudism is a real thing. Yeah, I mean, but that is interesting. Like I said, that is interesting that you bring up Mother because I could see why people maybe didn't get it. Same as this film. Of course, Fincher is way more heavy-handed about the anti-consumerism, anti-capitalism.
Yeah.
Especially with, like, logos.
So is CP.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, then, like I just said, Aronofsky is very heavy-handed with the metaphor of Mother. But, you know, the film, you know, showing all the logos of everything, like, oh, the Starbucks cup and White Castle and you know.
Yeah.
The other...
Apple.
You know, but like I said, I could see why people don't get it.
Yeah. Or I think maybe it was misunderstood as pro toxic masculinity, pro anti-consumerism, pro anarchy, and you know,
especially in '99. You know, people legitimately thought the world was going to end in 2000.
I was reading something about it was either Fincher or Brad Pitt. I mean, couldn't believe when people were like, "Man, I love Tyler Durden, bro," and they're like, "You do?
What?
You're like, what?
Have you watched the movie?"
Yeah, and it's like they did, but they completely misunderstood the point.
Yeah, you know, I mean, because I'm sure, you know, Brad Pitt loved playing the character, but I bet he even knew, like, yeah, you don't want to be.
You're not supposed to like Tyler Durden.
You're not supposed to like me. I mean, and I think the reason why that is not only to attribute to Brad Pitt's acting of it, but you know, Tyler Durden is very charismatic. He's very believable.
And I think that, you know, in the first third, the part that
he's very
likes, he is cool, and you do want to be kind of like him. But
yeah, you know, he's broing out with Edward Norton at the bar. And
but of course, once you pass a certain threshold, you're like, I don't want to be like Tyler anymore.
Yeah, especially as Project Mayhem starts to really ramp up, and I
would say it's similar to, as you would say, shout out to our Scorsese series.
Hell yeah!
It's like being in the mob. It's fun till it isn't.
Yeah, 100%, just like Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Sorry, I watched the Kevin James sound guy video of him in Goodfellas. I was fucking dying of laughter. It was so funny. Shout out to Kevin James for starting a YouTube channel during all of this, because his videos are fucking hilarious.
Yeah, you know, I wasn't a huge fan of him, but I do love his videos. I think his videos
Have you seen the one where he plays baseball by himself?
No.
So he hits the ball and then he chases after it, but he hits it like 3 miles away and manages to catch it, but it's actually like in his head. He actually misses the ball and the bat swings around and hits him in the back of the head. It's fucking funny. But anyway,
that is funny.
But yeah, it's fun till it isn't.
It's fun till it isn't.
Yeah.
Rain, are you ready to wrap up?
I am ready to wrap up. I fucking loved it, dude.
Yeah, man. I'm really glad you loved it.
I am probably, when you leave here, I might rewatch it again, Britt.
I do have one oops I forgot. And
Oopsies.
It is yes, I saw this movie years and years ago.
Millions of years ago.
By now, it was about 15 years ago.
Goddamn.
When I saw it the first time.
You were 13?
Yeah, probably.
Jesus.
Probably. 13,
He's
14?
old.
13, 14, yeah.
We're both old. We're both 28.
That's not old. And so...
According to Alba, it is.
Well, yeah, that's true. I remember So I saw it then,
okay.
Right? But a few years before that, I had asked Dad. I go, hey, Dad, have you ever seen the movie Fight Club?
Well, I guess your dad was like, why?
I think I might want to watch Fight Club. And he goes, have you ever seen it? And he goes, oh, you mean where Edward Norton and Brad Pitt are the same character?
And you're like, oh, thanks, Dad.
That's how he described it to me. And unfortunately, because I knew I shouldn't know that, it's all I remember. And so I've never seen this movie not knowing the twist. I mean, similar to you.
Yeah, well, and because it's very...
Now it's sort of ingrained in pop culture now that, you know, they are the same person. I really like a lot of the fan artwork. There's some where they're, like, on a playing card, and of course he's on top, or, like, Edward Norton's on the top, and Brad Pitt's on the bottom, like a Jack or like a King would be.
Yeah.
I really like stuff like that. So like, it's sort of hard if you type in Fight Club.
Yeah.
You're gonna get it spoiled.
Well, and like I mentioned with Youth in Revolt, there have been several movies past this of two different actors playing the same character, because one is in the other one's head.
Yeah, I think, it's really hard to pull this off now. Because this one, I think it's because it wasn't the original intention is why it's so good.
Yeah.
Because you don't see it coming because it wasn't supposed to be there.
Yeah, because, like in Youth in Revolt, it is Michael Cera playing both characters.
Right.
You just have to remember, I think his alter ego was called, Francis or something like that. You just have to remember that Francis really isn't there. That it is Michael Cera's character doing all of this stuff.
I'm trying to think of other examples, but I also don't want to ruin it for anybody. You know what I mean?
Oh, so, true. In case they haven't seen a movie.
Right.
And it's
I don't want to even mention the title because that, even just mentioning the title would give it away, right? But I have seen a few where you see the tropes. Mm-hmm. You see the ignoring of one person and not the other. Right, you see where it's I don't know if that person's there.
Oh, do you want me to say it? Because I just recently learned about it, even though it's on my shelf. I'm never gonna watch it.
Go ahead.
Good Night, Mommy.
That was the number one thing that popped in my head, and
I'm
I was
never gonna watch it. I'm never gonna watch it.
That one,
because I know how it ends.
I figured it out in the first 5 minutes. That
one of the brothers isn't actually there,
and so it's hard to pull off. Now, is it still good? Yes. Is that the only thing going for the film? No. There's still a lot that still goes in to the plot and that still is worth watching. That is not the thing that holds it together, right?
Right.
But it would have been cool if I hadn't have figured it out, right?
Yeah.
I think that it's
like the whole, someone telling you that Darth Vader's Luke's father, and you're like, oh great. Well, now I don't. Oh, great. Whole saga over now. Okay, I don't have to watch it.
But see, no, because
that one thing, and and it is interesting that people have always gravitated towards that they're the same person.
Yeah.
Because people could talk about the movie where they make soap out of fat. Is that what they do?
My dad and I call it Greg Canaring. Where we will, it's very similar to what you're talking about, where instead of saying oh, you mean that Brad Pitt movie? We would say, hey man, I just watched that Meatloaf movie. You go, and we'll be like, oh, Fight Club. Go, yeah, Fight Club. That Meatloaf movie, Fight Club. Where we pick a character that's barely in it. Or pick an actor that's barely in it.
Because Greg Kinnear's barely in anything he does?
No, it originated from You've Got Mail. And
that's because Greg Kinnear's in You Got.
And
wait, don't you mean Sleepless in Seattle?
And so we would be like, oh, Dad, I'm watching that Greg Kinnear movie. He goes, oh, I love You've Got Mail, or something. And so now we do it with
and he's not even on his boat. Neptune's Folly.
And so now we call it Greg Kinnearing. And so funny. That's cool that you'd be like, that movie where they make that's a good Greg Kinnear.
I actually love Greg Kinnear.
I do too. I think it's fantastic. Now, we wouldn't use it for autofocus. We would go... I would say, hey, I'm watching that Willem Dafoe movie.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, you mean autofocus?
So you could, but here's the thing, and I promise we'll end the episode. You couldn't use that with Lord of the Rings.
No.
Because everyone has enough screen time.
Yeah, it's pretty equal. It's pretty equal.
Unless you want to say, hey, I'm watching that Sean Bean movie. Oh, you mean Lord of the Rings?
Oh my god. Oh, see, I was gonna go Hugo Weaving. That's fine.
But he's in all. Well, no, he's not. No, yeah, he is. He is in all three.
He's got to be in all three, right?
Anyways,
Anywho's.
Yeah, man, loved it. Like I said, I think right when you leave, I'm probably gonna pop it in and rewatch it.
Nice.
Yeah, man, super dug it.
Yep.
Not necessarily a strange film. I guess the only strange thing about it is,
I picked it. Strange, yes, not really, but
you used my loose strange
sort of. So I picked it, of course, for the twist, but also for the blinking him in.
Yeah,
I really like that. There's a scene where Tyler's talking straight to camera, and the film bleeds into the frame.
I love that.
Right? And
love
so,
that.
like, Fincher does some really cool things there.
Dude, because Fincher's the fucking man, dude.
That's true. He is.
We may have to do a movie, just like Kaufman, we're going to have to do at least one of his movies every season.
I can do that. That is not a big deal.
I mean, I have The Game. I've been wanting to watch that.
It's so fucking good. I also bought Mank on that.
I gotta watch that.
You have to get it on the bootleg. It's so good.
Don't buy bootlegs.
No, yeah.
Don't buy bootlegs.
So anyway, Rain, it will probably not be next week, but
no. So
this is a big announcement.
As we mentioned, after this episode, it will be our 100th episode. It is so wild to think about that we have done 100 episodes.
Yeah.
And that includes bonus episodes. Bonus episodes count. So, as we mentioned, Jeremy and I are trying to get everything prepared because, as we let you know back in season 5, our 100th episode is going to be The Big Lebowski.
Big Lebowski.
Which is, of course, one of my all-time favorite movies.
I watched a video yesterday. Mm-hmm. Haley and I have been rewatching a lot of Ink Masters, and so one of my favorite people is Oliver Peck, of course.
Yeah.
Whom I bet... I might give you that picture. She's out there. Whom I met. And they were asking him, this was like a year or so ago, maybe. They were asking him, like, what's your favorite stuff? Mm-hmm. And they go, what's your favorite movie? He goes, oh, no question, The Big Lebowski.
Yeah, Big Lebowski is awesome. The fact that the Coen brothers followed Fargo up with this movie is... And we'll get into it when we actually do the episode, but it's why this movie is such a cult classic, because Fargo was such an amazing film. And they're like, we're going to do something a little lighthearted.
A little different.
And, of course, people expected Fargo again.
Even though I think Fargo is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen.
Yeah. As mentioned in Inside Llewyn Davis, all of the Coen brothers movies are fucking hilarious. But yeah, so now, unfortunately, that may not come out next week.
No.
Jeremy and I are trying to get everything, because we really want this episode to be very special.
My sweater isn't in yet.
Mine says it'll be here by September 15th. I don't believe that shit.
I don't believe it either, man.
I told my mom that me and you just may have to suck it up and wear those sweaters. I'll probably return it after we wear them.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we, like I said, we want this to be very special.
Yeah.
We're going to have testimonials, mainly just some intercuts of people.
I haven't asked anybody to do that.
I've asked.
Oh, I did. I
asked Zach and Kale.
I asked Kale, and he said he's
too busy.
He said he was going to send us one that says "I'm too busy." It
has to be him on the phone though.
Yeah,
I'm too busy.
He goes, "I'm too busy to be on your podcast."
But anyway, so you may see a bit of a delay. Doesn't mean that we may do, just to get everything prepared. We may get some future episodes ready.
Oh yeah, we'll probably do that.
But just let you guys know, if there is a big gap between this episode and the 100th episode, doesn't mean we're stopping, just means
we haven't forgot about you.
We just
I never would.
Hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do that. You can cry now.
I'm not gonna forget about it. That's pretty good.
Academy, give this man an Oscar.
I like the mask where he's
yeah, one of my favorite parts of the whole movie.
Really?
because Dorian and his henchmen are both like, because like the hand comes out of nowhere, and then it has a crowd of people, and he's just like slicking his hair back, like.
That's so funny.
Fucking hilarious. I love the mask.
I need to watch that movie again.
It's on Hulu.
Well, I have Blu-ray.
Anyway. But anyway, yes. So if there's a big gap, that's why. But we will have it, and it will be probably reminiscent of season 1. Probably pretty long episode.
Probably a long episode. Like this was a pretty long episode.
I mean, an hour and 30 minutes. That's not too bad.
Oh, that's not too bad.
But anyway, we hope you guys enjoyed Fight Club, and we will see you hopefully next week for our 100th episode, The Big Lebowski.